I can hear like birds and shit in the background. You,
Oh man. Um, I've got with me today Michael Marshman, the writer of the said comic book. So yeah, how you doing, man?
yeah, not bad.
Hey, cool. All right. So yeah, I don't know. Has my stream shown up on your computer yet? Can you see
On
what I'm
mine,
doing?
yeah, I can see you.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
So it's live. This is official.
Yep.
We are 100% legit. Okay. All right. So tell me a little
The
bit. Oh
bad
my
time
God.
to
Can you
say that I have.
believe this dog has just been sitting here quietly for like the last 45 minutes? And
Yep.
the second I press stream,
I mean, I was there for it. He didn't do anything.
Max, Max, sit. Max, sit. Oh my God. This is going to be one of those insufferable feeds where I'm doing absolutely nothing. But okay. All right. So yeah, tell me a bit about the book, man. Like, what, just like, 50 words or less. What are we talking about?
Um, I mean, what do you want to know, story wise, or
Yeah,
how I
like
came up?
just like the characters. Like, okay, set the scene. Where is it? When is it?
Well, I suppose the best sort of thing would be to describe what you're going to be drawing. I suppose
Okay, yeah, yeah.
the first page, which is essentially the introduction of the main character, Nissa.
Mm-hmm.
She's a young girl, mid 20s. The interesting thing about her is that she can fly. She actually has wings, natural wings. Um, it's set in a post-apocalyptic world where, let's just say, bad shit went down. Nothing's really quite known how it happened or why it happened or blah blah blah. And I think the whole story is essentially just her finding her place in the world, and yeah, that's pretty much it, really.
Cool, cool. Okay, so what are we talking in? Like, so she's basically a survivalist in
Yeah, yeah,
post-apocalyptic world.
she's out for herself. She's pretty much an anti-hero. Well, like,
Like, how does she survive though? Like, she's obviously she's by herself.
yeah, yeah, by herself.
Just
She just, fights whenever she has to, gets food, stuff like that. Basic survivalist stuff. If anyone's ever played, Fallout, then you kind of get the gist.
except without the giant mech suits.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. I mean, I could add them in later, but nah.
Yeah, hey, I'm gonna have to learn how to draw mechs. Yeah, so okay, so where does she find herself on page one? Like, what's the introduction? What are we talking?
Um, it's it's very exposition heavy, I suppose. It's more she's talking to the reader, just saying where she came from, who she is, which is a bit weird for me because usually when I write, I don't give a lot of backstory. Characters, I like to keep things a little mysterious, but for this one, realizing now, I just basically did the exact opposite. Yeah, you know exactly where she came from, where she grew up, even how she got her wings and learned how to fly. The only thing you don't really know is what happened between the happy times when she was young and the now, where everything's all just sort of fucked up and ruined. I mean, in on that first sort of introduction, you can see she's a happy young girl in her childhood, a lot of just peaceful sort of time, hanging out with her grandfather, blah blah blah, all that stuff. And then when you see her again after that gap, she's just cold and worn down, I suppose. Just sort of shut off from everything and yeah, out for herself. So yeah, and that's
Okay,
where
so like the loss of like you know
everything.
people around her, everything, yeah,
Yeah,
sort of put her in a bit of a lonely place, I guess.
yeah, and
Okay.
I guess in a way she sort of got that from her grandfather because of what he says to her, and she takes it to heart, I suppose.
Okay, so what can we expect from the first issue? Like, as far as so it's present day in her world, and it's like she's just struggling to make ends meet and get through. What happens that drives the story along, so to speak?
Well, first issue is heavily an introduction to her, an introduction to the world. I think the second half of the issue sort of kicks the story off a bit more, where she meets someone that will essentially change her life.
Her
Um,
attitude.
yeah, her attitude. And what was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Damn it. Yeah, just changed the way she views things and views people and how she interacts with the rest of the world, I suppose. So, yeah.
Okay, so what about like moving away from this? What about inspiration? Like, what are some of your favorite comic books? Like influences, I would say, like things like what motivates you as a writer to come up with something like this?
Well, um, I actually came up with this from a dream.
Oh,
That's a
nice.
cliche. Um, but like, I mean, not the whole story. Like the character Nissa herself, I actually saw in a dream.
Wow. Okay.
From what you've drawn, you've actually done a pretty close to 100% accurate
Okay. Cool.
representation.
I'll take it.
Um, but yeah, it was kind of a mix of two dreams that I had on the same night, actually. But yeah, the first one was like Nissa standing on top of a building, which I think is on the first page of this comic,
Yeah.
and just looking out over this
That's what I'm working on right now.
this wasteland of a city.
I don't know how much you can see there because the contrast isn't great, but I'm working on a city skyline, which is something in the preliminary sketches I was doing. It's the one thing I forgot to draw. I'm like, okay, we're going to just draw sky and clouds, and she's going to be standing. The character's going to be standing on this girder, like as a establishing shot of the city skyline and stuff. But I didn't draw the skyline, so I'm working on that right now. So. Because one thing I've got to focus on as an artist is I tend to focus too much on the foreground, the details and stuff like that, and I never sort of place them in a world as much as I should, and so that's kind of what I'm starting with this time. So I sort of, get it right the first time, so to speak. Yeah, sorry. What was that?
And this is your first comic as well.
That's
to be
true.
fair.
Yeah. So I'm still coming up with my sort of vibe and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So. Yeah, but it's a great story. I'm happy to be working on it. So that's cool.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. So you were saying, like influences and.
Yeah, the first
dream.
dream was with Nissa standing on the building, and there was another dream I had where there was this. I don't even know if you call it a person. It was like a creature. I don't know how to describe it. They were just like completely black, like no hair, and they had like one giant eye and this big toothy grin.
Oh wow!
And it was just weird. And for some odd reason, the words Homoko King were in my head, and I was like, "That's the Homoko King."
Now you've been adamant with me this whole time that it's a working title, and
It is a working title, yes.
I like it. I think it's catchy. I don't know what the problem is. I mean,
It
unless
is,
it doesn't
like-
fit in with the actual story, like that's, that'd be the reason to sort of move on from it. But
Well, funnily enough, the word Homoko I don't have a problem with. It's the word king that I have a problem with.
okay.
It's like I like
Is it just too like labyrinth? It's like the Goblin King kind of,
not so much, but like I don't know. It's because the way the story's sort of shaping in my head. It's like I don't know if he would call himself a king.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that
like
makes sense.
this, like the main villain in this story at the moment is called the Homoko King. He is very very powerful. He's pretty much got his own country, I suppose. His own sort of world that he rules.
So, ipso facto, king.
Yeah, I know, but like I don't know, something's a bit weird about it, and
Do
it's
you feel like maybe it's a little bit too fantasy? Or something?
maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, a girl with wings, that's kind of fantasy too, isn't it?
It is, but I mean, at the same time, we're talking post-apocalyptic sort of setting, so that's a little bit different. Yeah, so I don't know. I just more than anything to me, I just like the way it rolls off the tongue. It's just it's the kind of title. If I saw the logo of it on top of a comic book, I'd be like, "That's interesting. I wonder what that is."
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's something.
I think you may have just convinced me on stream to keep it as a
Live. You can't take it back now, man. It's like live streamed to the world,
yeah.
man.
Yeah. Apart from like the dreams and stuff, other influences like Sandman is my most favorite comic
Yeah.
of all time by Neil Gaiman. Anything written by Neil Gaiman is just fantastic. He knows how to create worlds and interesting characters, likable characters, and he just grabs onto you, doesn't let go. I think I've read pretty much everything he's put out, novel wise and comic wise. I'm not too sure.
The man's a legend. So
Yeah, he
yeah.
is. Funnily enough, I haven't seen Mirror Mask.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's on the bucket
Other
list.
kind of. Yeah, I actually had it on my computer for a while.
Mm.
But, I just never got around to watching it. Um, H.P. Lovecraft is another one.
Hmm.
I think he's the only author to ever legitimately scare the shit out of me with some of the
Well,
stuff he's written.
that's
Like
what.
Stephen King's done a few things every now and then,
Yeah,
but man, H.P. Lovecraft just knows how to terrify me.
he's gonna tear your heart out of your ass.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
So yeah, that's cool. Okay, so what about like artists? Like what drives you to, other than say the writer, like what drives you to pick up a book off the shelf? Like what's your key motivating?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Like I don't know a lot of artists by name. The only ones I really know by name are because of you
Okay.
yelling Sean Murphy in my face. Who
Oh
is a
man.
fan?
Oh man. If one day I could be Sean Murphy, that guy's insane. Yeah. Okay. But okay. So it's really the
Scotty Young as well, I suppose.
yeah. So
Once
you're
again, that's because you yell him in my face all the time.
yeah. Scotty Young's a divisive artist though, man. Like a lot of people. In fact, somebody put up on Facebook the other day. Someone I know from the comic book community actually. Put up a thing, just a throwaway comment saying, "Oh, okay, guys, who do you think is the most overrated or underrated comic artists at present?" And like his ones was here's my ones, and it's like he's saying this person, that person. And he's like Scotty Young, completely overrated, and I was like, and to be fair, a lot of people came out and defended him on that as well. I don't like to get involved in online stoushes over Facebook, but
Yeah,
yeah, there was a lot of people there, sort of, you know, who kind of agree with me. It's easy to throw away his style because it is very cartoony and stuff like that. But there's just something about the way that he works that just makes sense to me. He has, I think, what makes a great artist, regardless of their style, is you know, regardless of what genre their style fits into, is recognizability. Like you can look at an artwork and just go, "Oh my god, I know exactly who drew that."
yeah.
And see that's what gets my attention. And to me, it's a lot harder with your typical traditional comic art styles. We've talked about this before. Like I tend to be drawn to artists that don't do the typical, what from like the X-Men in the 90s and stuff like that. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like all that stuff and I respect it, and these guys do a great job. But to me, it's hard to notice somebody putting their spin on it when they're doing,
Yeah,
when
because
they're towing
it's
the corporate
also
party line as far as comic art goes.
yeah, it's
Traditional
it's
art.
all just so uniform.
It is.
Like you
Everybody's
could have
sort of.
four different comics by four different artists, and you won't be able to tell the difference.
And to be fair, that actually has a place too. Like particularly right now, they're pumping out so many issues a month. Like you've got the DC guys just like pumping out like
Two issues of the
two
big one.
issues of the same thing a month, and so they've got different artists working on all the different books, and to be fair, that's kind of cool, for readers. They get into the stories a lot quicker and things like that. But the problem I have with it is you get alternating issues, and I may not love the art of one guy, and from my perspective, it's like I like a good writer as much as the next guy, but what makes me pick up a book is inspirational artwork. And so here I am looking at a comic book, picking up two issues a month, one of which I don't really like,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's done by somebody whose style doesn't gel with me, or but then I've got to try and follow that storyline, So I mean, I picked up the one that got me was the first issue of the new Green Arrow books. I picked up and I was like, oh man, it's different, it's cool, it's a bit indie looking, which I wasn't expecting from like one of the big boys,
Yeah.
And so I was like, cool, I'm totally vibing on this. And then I pick up the the next issue, and I'm like, what the fuck happened? and to be fair, it's good art, but it was the style of the other one that got me. It wasn't so much the quality of the art. I was like, because to be fair, there's I don't want to say anything bad about anyone else, but there's other artists out there that I think probably like just strictly from a talent point of view just have a bit more of a knack for this and that,
Yeah.
than this guy. But whoever, I don't even know who the artist was. But at the same time, I was like, it just has its own character, like it just has a flavor to it that sort of made sense to me. So, I jumped on that one, and then I was like, yeah, what are they doing? But it is what it is. We all sort of have favorites and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean,
I suppose that's the big difference between you and me, though, because like I've been reading the Green Arrow stuff as well, and I had no idea they were different artists.
yeah. See, I spotted it the second I picked up and opened up the book. I was like, "What happened? Who's this guy? What is this?" You know.
Yeah,
But see, again, that's indicative of these guys having a style, which in itself is, like I said, that to me is what makes a great artist, is someone with a recognizable style. Again, it's one of those things where, like, someone like me who's been drawing their whole lives, I'm going to spot things that you're not going to see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's going to be little inflections and little idiosyncratic devices that these guys just jump on that just make all the difference,
Even just like the type of lighting they use or whatever.
Yeah, it could be something as simple as the way they use light and shade. A lot of times it's... Do you know what, to me, lets down some of the... Even artists working on major books, is that there's no dynamics. Getting back to Sean Murphy, I don't think that I've ever seen a Sean Murphy frame where the action was wasted. Even if it's just two people talking, there's a dynamic nature to it that just gives you, like, the impression of life and movement and motion, and then you get other artists they're like, and you know how much I love Kevin Smith, but they're the Kevin Smiths of comic artists, you know what I mean? It's two people behind the camera chatting for 90 minutes, It's that to me, that's something. I think what attracts me to certain things is things that I personally struggle with, and that's one of them. Like that sort of motion and movement in each panel is something that, like, I personally feel like I have to work on. So that's what attracts me to it. That's what I draw from, And so I'll obsess over that, regardless. I couldn't care who was writing it, if it was the worst dialogue in history, if the artist is doing something that I feel like I can't do, or at least something and it's not like I want to do everything. It's like some things you're just drawn to, and you're like, man, I wish I could really, work with light and shade like that guy does. So I'll read all of their stuff, and I'll figure out. Like, the cool thing is, you look at Sean Murphy's work, right? From like, say, his earlier work, like Punk Rock Jesus, and obviously stuff prior to that. You can see a progression. So it gives you the impression of, like, he evolved. Like, it's easy to look at these guys like Jim Lee and stuff and go, oh yeah, he's always just been that good. But if you look at early work, you can go, wow, man. Okay, so, and again, Punk Rock Jesus looks amazing, but if you compare it to, and even The Wake, right, with Sean Murphy as well, The Wake, it was amazing, but like, when you compare it to Tokyo Ghost, there is a definite jump in quality, and it's not like things like his line work or anything like that. It's just, there's just a feel to it that just feels better. Like, it's not even something I can even put my finger on.
I think it's what you've been talking about before. Like, I think he just got better at capturing movement.
Yeah, that might have been it. Yeah, it's just
like,
dynamic.
I haven't read Punk Rock Jesus. I think I've seen a couple of pages that you've shown me and whatnot. But even like from Punk Rock Jesus to The Wake, I feel there's like a significant jump of quality.
Yeah, I would agree.
With Sean Murphy.
Yeah, he's a cool dude, man. So okay, what about writers, like, as far as the same sort of thing? Like, do you feel like say Neil Gaiman's work, as much of a genius as he is, have you noticed in recent times his work improving, or, like, because I mean, he's one of those legends that everybody just assumes was always, the Jesus
always
Christ
a
of
legend.
rock. Yeah.
It's really hard to say, because like, he does such a different variety of work. Like, he's obviously released like short story collections, novels, short novels, comics, but he's also written like children's books and like poetry and all this other sort of stuff. Like, I never really went into the children's book and poetry sort of stuff, which I think he's been doing more of lately. But his latest short story collection, which was called Trigger Warning, it actually felt very similar to his earlier short story collections, which were like
Oh.
Smoke and Mirrors, and I can't remember the other one. Something. I've got it here somewhere. I'm gonna actually find it. Where is it?
In the vast bookshelf that is your room.
Oh my god! It's like right around. Smoke and Mirrors, and god damn it! It's behind. Give me a second. What's it called? Fragile Things. There we go.
Fragile Things.
Yeah. Yeah, like they all seem to be fairly consistent, and it's been going for like quite a while, as far as I can remember. Like I think I may be wrong. I probably am, but I think Fragile Things is about 10 years old at this point.
Okay.
But yeah, like
Man, imagine having that kind of a creative career that's like it's just gone for, you know, that sort of period of time.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like he's just managed to be consistent with his writing. I mean, like a lot of his stories have different feels and tones, obviously, but just as pure quality goes, he hasn't really dipped at all.
Yeah, you got to love that.
I,
Although I guess I guarantee if you asked him, he'd be like,
Oh,
"Oh
yeah.
my god, that old stuff," you know.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, the dude's like written stuff that's like made me cry, and like, not many books have done that. Like movies, you know, for sure. There's like a ton, but there's a couple of stories, more and more of the short story collections that have made me tear up a bit.
Yeah.
Same as Andrei Sapkowski, who wrote the Witcher books.
Oh yeah. Now a lot of people don't actually know that was derived from a book.
Yeah, well, to be fair, the book is also derived from like old Yugoslavian legend.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, there you go. I see.
Yeah.
I didn't know that at all. That actually it makes a lot of sense though. So
Oh.
like it's a little bit like your Beowulf or whatever, which is like
Yeah, very much so.
traditional stories of wherever the fuck he's from, and with all
Let's
that,
just say European
it
mythology.
just goes out the window. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that's cool.
there's one short story he wrote. It's in the sort of Destiny. I can't remember the name of the story, but like that was the only thing I've read that I legit cried like a little bitch. It was like I don't know. It was so
Wait,
upsetting.
so hang on in the Witcher books.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay. Holy shit! I might have to pick one up. Yeah.
I highly recommend them. They're good reads, even if you haven't played the games. Like
Yeah.
you if anything, read the books before you play the games. But that's just me.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean that makes sense. A lot of times the literature gets distilled down a little bit when they sort of make it into a film or a
Game.
Yeah, or a game or whatever. So yeah.
But, to its credit, the Witcher games are amazing.
Yeah. they really did a great job, and I mean even for such a vast game. I think we've talked about this before as well. For such a massive game on such a huge scale, it was one of the few games that came out in that little era of time where they didn't just fuck it up at launch. There were so many games that just needed day one patches that just corrected a broken game. And The Witcher
Yeah.
came out with flying colours. Like it shouldn't have worked as well as it did day one.
Didn't Arkham Knight come out around the same time?
Yes, yeah, that was the big one.
Yeah, the PC launch was an absolute disaster.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
and then he comes along.
and still is to this day.
Yeah. I mean, it runs fine on mine now, but that's because I've got the beast.
Yeah.
So I had to brute force it to work. So.
Oh, Jesus. See, that's the thing. I mean, we get into these discussions about consoles and versus PC and stuff. I mean, there's just something to be said for just putting a game in and it just works,
Yeah. But even then, like a lot of the time on consoles nowadays, you'll put a game in and it just doesn't work. Or, I mean, not to the extent of like PC gamers having issues, but like, there's like frame rate issues or like not very often do I see a console game crash.
Yeah.
I probably see it more on Xbox than anything. Like
You see a lot of glitches. Like a lot of people have been sort of posting up pictures of what's that new one that just came out? Recall on Xbox, where people are like clipping through doors and stuff like that. It just, I mean, in a game like that, it just shouldn't happen. You know what I mean? It's not like they're worried, like with something like The Witcher, where they got to worry about a billion different things.
Yeah.
You know, that games like Recore shouldn't have really basic problems like that, you know.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't develop games, so I'm not going to step on their toes.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what was I going to ask you about Neil Gaiman? Neil Gaiman wrote the who is it? The Swamp Thing series that everyone talks about. Which again, is that right?
That was Alan Moore.
Alan Moore. See, now I always get them mixed up. Okay, so what about Alan Moore?
I'm very polarized on Alan Moore.
Really?
Not in terms of his writing, just in terms of him. Like I like his writing. Like I'm a big fan of Watchmen.
Oh, hey, hang on a second. Okay, I've just corrected them in my book because you know how sometimes you get two people and you just mix them up constantly.
Yeah.
I now Alan Moore's the dude with the. He looks like a homeless person.
He looks like Hagrid.
He looks like Hagrid. Yeah. But in a foul mood.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. How do I get them mixed up so much? Yeah. And Neil Gaiman is he married to Dresden Dolls chick? God, I'm really showing how little I know about everything right now.
I actually know, but you just blanked my mind.
I have that.
For some odd reason, I'm thinking Amber Heard.
No. God, what's her name? She's got that book called something of asking. You know, about because you know she had a lot of success with crowdfunding and stuff like that. I'm right though. It's the right person, right?
I'm googling.
Okay, Google away.
Amanda Palmer.
Amanda Palmer.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
She's cool, man. I've seen her do a TED talk and stuff about that book she wrote, and it's just genius. Like, I mean, you know, a lot of people have major success with crowdfunding their creative ideas and things like that. And to be fair, it's not going to work for everybody. You know, like Kevin Smith can crowdfund the shit out of anything because he has a built-in fan base, and Amanda Palmer's the same. But I guess on a smaller scale, like she never had the global sort of notoriety that he had, but she had a very tight fan base that she just put a hand out and said, "We want to make an album. We need $10,000," and they made over $1 million, you know, or whatever the story is, and it gives everyone hope. I guess people care. You know?
It's like, yeah, I just want to make this comic. I just need like $2,000.
Yeah, or $1 million. You know.
Then, yeah. And they end up giving me like, 2 million.
Yeah, that'd be all right. And then, and much like any indie game developers, you just disappear.
Yeah. Well, you spend 10 years making it, it turns out shit anyway.
Yeah. What was that one the one they keep talking about, Bernie and Gavin on the Rooster Teeth podcast, they talk about the vessel all the time. The cup that's supposed to be able to tell you what liquid's in it.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, we actually can't figure out how to do that, so we'll make a cup that tells you how many glasses of water you drink a day. Like, you could literally put a counter on it and you just press a button, you know?
Or, you can use your fingers.
Yeah, or just drink 8 glasses of water a day and forget about it. Oh my God. Yeah, see? But for every 10 of those, there's a success story in crowdfunding, you know?
Yeah. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
No.
But,
Yeah, man. What else? I should have written down a list of things to talk about. Okay, so have you got any questions so you've seen a little bit of my preliminary art for this.
Yeah.
What direction-wise, you quite happy with how it's going?
Yeah, I mean, mainly because, we actually communicate. It's not like I leave you to your own devices and,
Yeah.
You finish the book and I'll be like, this is nothing like what I wanted.
Yeah.
Like you've actually shown me like as little as one box, and I think most of the time I've been like, looks good, looks fine. I mean, every now and then I've been like, maybe change something like this or something like that. But
Yeah.
It's more been you coming up with ideas. Like it was your idea to put her on the girder.
Yeah, well, I wanted. This is what I'm struggling with because that's where I'm up to now, right? I've drawn the girder, and now I've got to put her in the foreground. But all of the ones I've done so far, I've not been entirely happy with. Again, it comes down to that dynamic posing. You know, like I've got. I wanted to be kind of peaceful, like staring uh, into the abyss. You know,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
casually doing that. But it's like I haven't got the other page. Oh yeah, here it is. So I originally drew this one because I was more just trying to flesh out the character, and to be honest, I've never truly been happy with that. I think what it was is I was trying too hard to create a style and just failing at it. One thing I've always learned within myself is if I let my brain go limp and just do the work, it always comes out a lot better than if
yeah.
I overthink things, and which is exactly what I'm doing right now. And then I sort of modified it when I did like a second iteration of it. And again, she's sort of casually leaning now, but I still haven't quite grasped it. But what I really didn't want to do was the superhero pose. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
she's not Daredevil. You know. And I mean, if you were drawing Daredevil, that's the first thing you do is put like, crouching on top of a spire or Spawn, something like that. You know. But
Yeah,
that's not who Nissa is. You know. But
yeah. Well, she's not a hero.
yeah, she's just got to be. I don't know. She's just contemplating. So, how do you draw a dynamic pose for somebody who's just contemplating the future or thinking about the past? You know, well, in this case, thinking about the past. Yeah. Which reminds me, before I go on, I've got to put these panels in before I draw all over the top of them and forget that they go there.
And you could have her just sitting cross-legged on the girder,
Yeah.
like leaning on the wire, something like that.
Yeah, like sitting
Arms
down.
folded. Yeah.
So, like, more so. Hang on, let me just quickly rough in these boxes.
Funnily enough, as time has gone on, and like I've seen stuff that you've drawn of her,
Mm.
I'm seeing. Well, I guess I feel like a lot of it is coming from Deb from Tokyo Ghost,
Yeah.
which I like. Like that's fine. And like,
Well, I've been actively, consciously trying to avoid that because that's me in a nutshell. I see something cool, and then it's all that comes out of me creatively for a long period of
yeah,
time. It's like my friend who's a songwriter. He when he goes into songwriting mode, does his best to avoid listening to any music for a week. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Just to get it out of his head. What have I done there? That's totally crooked. Professional.
Professional implies you're getting paid to do it.
Yeah, well, see, I mean, again, like the problem is there's going to be similarities because they're similar characters. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
Nissa she's a free spirit. She's going to have a certain gymnastic quality to her, where because she's going to be agile and mobile, and I mean that's Deb in a nutshell. She's always sort of leaping through the air, doing something. And so that's going to be the challenge, is trying to avoid that influence as much as I can. But yeah, but again, and the thing is that's part of the problem as well, is that we're getting back to Sean Murphy again. He part of that dynamic thing is having a character that looks dynamic. Like she's got the hair, she's got she wears that sort of weird sort of skirt loinclothy kind of thing
yeah,
that gives movement in the bottom half of her body, and that's part of the reason why I just naturally came up with the idea of her having some sort of a cloth around her waist, even though she's wearing pants.
yeah,
Originally, it was going to be an extension of her like shirt slash singlet sort of thing that just hung down longer, because if you don't have that, you can't illustrate the motion. You know what I mean? You can always draw somebody leaping through the air, but unless something's sort of blowing in the wind or whatever, it doesn't look dynamic. So that was part of the character design there. Like, it was trying to make that work, And I'm just going to fix this up. A lot of this stuff, when I do the coloring and stuff like that, I'll tidy up all these lines and all that sort of stuff. But okay, so how am I going to do this? I feel like she should be standing though. That's the thing. Dag nabbit. See, now I'm procrastinating. I'm like, just go, oh, there's a line I got to fix before I move on to that. The best thing to do is to just start riffing, I think. And just sort of see what happens. And try and avoid maybe looking at the other reference I've got from the old pages because I want it different. If I look at them, I'll just start making the same mistakes. So let's see. I could always make her bigger, but then she'd be too tall. This is the thing. A lot of people will just look at something like this and go, we'll just draw there. And it's like, okay, I could do that. Like, say, for example, I've been toying with the idea of having her, like, having one arm on this and another hand over here holding onto that. You know what I mean? Just sort of leaning against the cables.
Yeah.
But then she would be too tall. You know, you've got to visualize all this stuff before you start sketching it out. Like, her arm span would make her, like, this high, like, up to there. And I kind of... I guess maybe, hang on, let's have a look. So... I mean, the other option is to not have her holding on at all. Like that lends itself to the fact that she can fly. She's got no issue with heights. You know, like
yeah.
It sort of makes sense that she wouldn't even be concerned about falling off the girder. Yeah. See, and again, I've drawn her too big because now, unless I lower the girder, which I can do, because I kind of like that scale. So I put her hips there, knees. It's gonna have to be feet there. Okay, so let's do that. Let's get rid of this. One thing I would say to anybody who's an aspiring artist of any kind, never be afraid to rub shit out and start again. And I would probably, as someone who's written song lyrics and stuff, I'd probably say the same thing to you, man. If you're sitting there, sometimes you'll find yourself, when you're writing, you'll find yourself just not being able to find the words. You know what I mean? You're sitting there and you go, I know what's supposed to be said here, and I know the vibe I want to go for, but I can't find the words. Yeah. Delete the sentence beforehand, because that's what's holding you up. Like, particularly with songwriting, because you typically got to find things that rhyme and all that sort of stuff as well. So it makes it a little bit more challenging. But I've had the greatest lines I've ever come up with, and just couldn't find a line to follow it, so I just deleted them. And 9 times out of 10, you'll find a better alternative. You know.
Yeah. I don't know. I tend to just if I get stuck on something or I can't quite figure it out, I just walk away.
Yeah.
Not permanently. Sometimes permanently, and I'll be like, "Fuck that story, it's done." I'll walk away for a little bit and come back to it and fresh eyes. Yeah. And it usually works. If it doesn't, then I delete the last paragraph and keep going.
Yeah, I think I think that's it, right? Like, it's just, don't be afraid to let something go, even if it's the best thing you've ever done, because the bottom line is people have this thing in their head that I'll never do something as good as this ever again. Yeah. And that's bullshit, because you just came up with it now. You know what I mean? Like, you're sort of thinking, oh, well, that's like, this is the best it's ever going to be. Someone else must have written this because it's too good for me, you know? And it's the same. Sometimes I'll draw something and I'll just be like, holy shit. Like, I'm not capable of doing that, but you are capable of doing it because you just did it, you know? And you're capable of doing it again. And the fact that you just did it means that next time it'll be easier to do something of that quality because you just did it. Yeah. You know, you don't have to aspire to do it because you've already done it. So yeah, that's sort of how I got a lot better at art and songwriting and music when I stopped caring about being the best at it. You know what I mean? Or being better than somebody else, you know?
That's the key to all art, isn't it? Just be you.
Yeah, exactly. You know, stop trying to be as good as brand X, you know, because they have their own style, and chances are that person probably looks at what you do and is impressed by it. Yeah. You know, there's no, you know, like that's the thing. Like, my style is, say, It's nothing like something like we were talking about Scotty Young. My style's very different to his. But I'm still influenced by it, and I still find value in it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who don't understand might look at his stuff and go, oh, you draw portraits and stuff. He's just doing little cartoons. Yeah, but he does little cartoons better than I do portraits.
Yeah.
So, you can't judge the merit of art on anything in particular. It comes down to, do you like it? Then it's good. That's what it is. Stupid legs. Okay. See, and then there's this other thing you got to start thinking about. A lot of rookies, and often myself, make the same mistakes. Looking at this, she's standing on top of a building, right? She's looking into the horizon. There's going to be wind. So as an artist, you've got to think about two things. Where is the light source? So let's just say, for example, kind of makes sense that the sun would be setting, right? She's looking at the sunset.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Or time of day. I think it'd be earlier in the day, actually.
Okay, so are we talking sunrise?
A little bit later, I'd say. Probably like the 10 o'clock sort of.
Okay, cool. All right, so we'll put the sun up here, maybe behind one of these clouds. Redraw the cloud, put the sun, say, up here somewhere.
Yeah, she does spend a lot of this day looking around for food, and she heads out. I mean, you've read the damn thing, so.
Yeah, so you put the sun up there. See, this is why this podcasting thing's a good idea. I keep looking at this camera like that's the webcam, and it's the one that's looking at this. I keep on, you'll see me going, so anyway, I'm like, I'm such a doofus. So I got to think about that, right? There's the light source, and often there could be more than one, but in this case, there's going to be one. So automatically, the sun being up here dictates the rendering of all these buildings. So the backs of all these buildings are in darkness, or at least in shadow, So instantly that adds weight to the background because you're going, okay, now these buildings, which at the moment are just random blocks, are they have dimension and weight now because you can instantly just go, okay, well, all that's going to be dark all through here, But then you've got to think about the wind as well. So which way is the wind blowing? Is it left or right? Because that's going to factor into everything. Like if I'm, say for example, the wind's coming from this direction, her hair's obviously going to be going that way, which I feel more comfortable with because it lends itself better to the
frame as a whole.
Yeah. But see, if I did that and then suddenly her top or whatever is blowing this way, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So and these things sound rudimentary, and you'd be going, well, fuck yeah, Corey, of course. But
it's like, well, duh.
What you've got to understand is that when I'm drawing this, I'm thinking about a million different other things, and it can be so easy to look at a picture later on and go, wait, why is suddenly like this? She's got a light source here on her back, and the wind is blowing in two different directions because you're not thinking about those fundamental. It's like in video games, they're lucky enough to have physics engines that do all that for you. You know what I mean? You don't ever have to worry about that because you just program something that creates the world, and then you just put the character in it, and everything will take care of itself. With illustration and stuff like that, don't really have that luxury.
Even with film.
Oh, 100%. You
don't really have that luxury.
Holy shit. You can fuck up so easily just by, like the 180 degree rule or whatever, where you're filming a conversation. You can just put the camera on the wrong side of somebody and just destroy the continuity.
Yeah. And
it's as simple as just moving the camera to look at the other person a little bit the wrong way, Yeah, sorry, I just totally railroaded you. What were you saying?
No. Yeah, I was saying, like in film, like even with lighting, you can screw that up because I don't know. I don't think a lot of people realize that most films don't go on natural lighting.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Even if it's an outdoor scene, there's like fucking lights shining down on these people just to make it look like day, sort of thing. And yeah, you fuck that up, and
isn't that funny with shooting anything? It's like, nothing ever looks like it does on film.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in real life, you got to always manufacture that natural light, And when you don't,
unless you're an old mate that did The Revenant.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, but see, I mean, do you know what? They factored that in when they came up with the concept of the movie. Oh, they would have factored that in budgetary, who they hired as a cinematographer, who they hired for the key grip. You know what I mean? Everyone would have played a role in that decision, you know? And he would have people he works with exclusively for that kind of project and that he trusts and things like that. So, you know, like it's one of those things where, you know, it's not for everyone. Like, for example, if that was the only way they made film, then we wouldn't have Sin City.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or pretty much any other, like, we wouldn't have the Avengers, you know?
Yeah.
Because they can't do those movies in that sort of situation.
Yeah, we wouldn't have anything that's slightly stylized.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'd all be just like, you know. But then, I mean, that's not to say that there's no place for films like that, obviously. The Revenant obviously did really well, but even just like high concept sort of movies, like, or movies like where, like, for example, have you ever seen a film called Real Time?
No.
It's a movie. It's got Jay Baruchel and Randy Quaid of all fucking
Oh,
people.
wow.
Dude, he is amazing in it because it's not a comedy. It's dead serious. And the premise of the movie is Jay Baruchel is a little bit of a gambler and he runs into some trouble and they send out this dude, a thug basically, to basically dispatch him. And because he's just pushed him one too many times, you know. And so this dude gives him like an hour to sort his shit out, and then he's taking him out to the woods to finish him off. And so the movie runs in real time, so it's literally an hour of his life. It's like 24, you know what I mean? But boy, man, does it go through a gamut of emotions. You know, like at first he's trying to reason with the guy, and then he's kind of, you know, it's I guess it goes through all the stages of grieving, I guess, because he's about to die. Yeah. But both of them, man, boy, do they play the shit out of their parts, you know? And it's Randy fucking Quaid. I think maybe he was just waiting for that one role his whole life. They always cast me as some kind of fucking idiot, you know? But yeah, man, dude, I'm so glad I watched that film because it was one of those ones I'm like, it sounds like a cool concept, but, you know, it's Randy Quaid.
Randy Quaid's the nutjob one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like...
He's on the run, isn't he? Right
he's
now?
the one who flies the fucking fighter jet into the spaceship.
Yeah. He's on the run, I believe he is, anyway.
What do you mean?
He's, like, from the law.
Like, legitimately on the run?
Yeah. Well, not on the... I think he's in Canada at the moment.
What happened? Like, you mean, like, as an individual? Like,
yeah.
Holy shit.
This was ages ago, though. I don't know if he still is.
What did he do? Or what is he purported to have done?
Be Randy Quaid.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. It has to be tax, right? Like, it's always tax with those guys.
I don't know. It's Randy Quaid. It could have been anything.
Everybody wants to be an actor and make tons of money, but nobody seems to want to pay taxes.
Yeah. I like Apple.
Oh. Don't get me started on Apple.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no. Hey, you know what? We all hate Apple, but boy, do they make a good phone.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Android. How was your phone, by the way? Is it on fire or?
My phone is an S6, all right?
Oh my god! I'll just be over here without a headphone jack.
Well, how often do you use headphones on your phone anyway?
Actually, fairly often, but you know what? I actually more often than not I use the iPhone headphones anyway, so I don't see there being too much of a problem with using their particular set, you know. But it's not even that. Like, everybody's blowing this shit out of proportion. It comes with an adapter, for God's sakes, you know. And that may be inconvenient, but how often is it going to be inconvenient, you know?
Yeah, I don't know.
Somebody put into perspective the other day when they were like, yeah, headphone jacks have been on audio devices for over 100 years. I think it's time we moved on. And so I couldn't disagree with that. But they're right. Yeah. I'd like to see how it's going to play out with, you know, charging and using headphones at the same time, which I don't know if that's going to be an issue or not.
Yeah. So what have you gone with?
Huh?
What have you gone with? Is she Standing on the girder.
I don't know. How well is it streaming, by the way? Because I've got no concept of.
My internet sucks, so my resolution is quite low.
Oh, okay. Well, hang on. Let me see if I can hold it still. She's standing. I'm not happy with the pose just yet. I'm working on it. Can you see that?
I can see the upper body. The legs are a bit.
Yeah, the legs are still a work in progress. In fact, I'm about to rub them out.
Fair enough.
She's kind of got a weird proportion. This is why I need to get a desk that's got like a tilted surface, because perspective really gets warped when you start looking at something from a 45-degree angle.
Yeah. Well, even if you're just staring at something for a long time in general.
Yeah. Let me see if I can just bring this back. You're gonna have to be down there now. I'm just working on her outfit at the moment, but
Did we end up deciding on what she was gonna have in terms of the bag or the satchel?
yeah, I think I don't know. we came up with a couple of ideas. Like originally there was going to be like an option for like maybe putting something on a thigh,
Yeah.
so that it wouldn't get in the way of her wings. But I feel like if she had a small backpack in the middle of her back, it wouldn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
And that sort of kind of would make a little bit more sense. Because I feel like having something on her thighs would probably weigh her down as far as like running and, avoiding things and parkouring around and shit,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I mean, it doesn't really matter much, like for the first issue anyway, because she's gonna have the kid on her back for half of it.
yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, hang on. Reveal, the big reveal. What kid, Marshman?
There's a little boy that she
Okay.
finds
Okay.
who pretty much like she finds him in a place where neither of them should be. He begs her for help, and she reluctantly takes him. I guess out of some sort of like she initially sees him and sort of like fuck off, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
But something clicks in her that just sort of like, okay, I'll take you, hurry up, come on, let's go, because shit goes down. Or is about to go down.
So the kid's in trouble basically if she doesn't.
Yeah, she taps into her humanity, I suppose.
Well,
She has lost
Yeah,
lost quite a
she's
bit.
lost it, but I mean, she gained a lot of humanity, I guess, from her relationship with her grandfather.
Yeah.
So I guess like the start of the issue with us tying into that point of reference, I guess that's part of that exposition. Like we have to sort of bring that in, because it demonstrates why she would give a shit. When in a world where she really shouldn't. Okay, I'm not unhappy with that now. It still feels long. See, this is the weird thing. Like in person, it actually looks okay, but when I look at it on reference on the stream, it just looks. She looks really long in the body. Maybe she's just too lean. I don't know. Hang on. So. Either way, I think I'll move on from this and maybe come back to it. But yeah, that's something. I'm definitely happier with this sketch more so than I have been with the other ones I've done. It seems a lot more natural. And then so now I got to start thinking about the shading. So there's going to be shadow through here from the sun to here. So basically, I'm just roughing out stylistically where there's going to be shadow fall without going too heavy-handed. Just to give some dimension to it, so then you can sort of see what works and what looks unnatural. And that looks unnatural. All right, cool. Done. Okay. So then we move on to these frames where we're establishing that's her now, and then we're looking back to her as a kid, which, man, that's a terrible picture. It's a little bit more representative. Yeah, so now the other thing I'm concerned with is when we talk about dialogue and stuff, I've got to read back through the script and find out if there's going to be enough room to put any text we need to put in here. Which is something I probably should be considering when I'm planning the panels as opposed to like in at the end.
Yeah, afterthought. Oh yeah, she says stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
these people talk. Yeah.
well, even then, most of the probably like first half of the issue, maybe even more. Like the only real time get dialogue spoken by the characters is when she's out, like when she finds the boy.
Yeah.
The only other time before that is like a quick, very quick conversation between her and her grandfather, which is like just like maybe even one panel
in the garden.
Yeah. Other than that, it's all boxes, thought boxes, I guess. Or
yeah,
I call them exposition boxes, but you know,
there's plenty of space around here where I can put stuff. But does there need to be anything between these boxes? I'm just trying to think. Like, should there be more space here to put like some dialogue between?
Well, I wouldn't, because there is a lot of exposition stuff that needs to be in those boxes, so I'd probably space them out quite a bit.
Yeah, maybe I can afford to make them bigger.
Depending on what's being said, might depend on if it's on that panel or a different panel.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's cool.
Keep in mind that I am new to writing comics. I've never written a comic before. You could probably even tell by the way I did it in the Word doc.
Well, you know what? Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter as long as, you know, like you don't have to have like the appropriate script software and everything like that to do something right. You know, like it's just things become an industry standard because they generally work pretty well.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean like, you know, I mean, I can't imagine that when Ben Affleck and Matt Damon wrote Good Will Hunting, they had all of the best script writing software and formatted the script perfectly. And I mean, they may have, I don't know. But it's unlikely.
I mean, like, it wasn't really so much like the fact that I use Word to write it. It's just the style of the writing. It's, it's not very script-like, I suppose.
But those script applications that you can buy tend to format all that stuff for you. So that's what I mean. Like, you know, it becomes an industry standard because everybody works off the same page and it makes sense, you know. But between you and me, it doesn't hold a lot of water. Like, there's not really any particular need for that. Because neither of us have really an established style to the point where we need it done a specific way. We haven't got a crew of people like a Greg Berlanti production where there's people in 2 different countries working on the same project, and if somebody doesn't like annotate a script correctly and put the right thing here and the right thing there, suddenly, you know, it costs everybody a ton of money and time. You know, I can draw a panel and you can say, dude, that's wrong. I can go, okay, and I rub the panel out and draw it again. You know. Yeah.
Plus, we don't have an inker. We don't have a penciler. We don't have a letterer. It's just,
we don't need to write a lot of notes and stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So Nissa, I've been drawing her in profile, in the preliminary ones, but now I'm thinking about it. Maybe I don't have to. It doesn't really need to be. And I feel like if it's going to be the first time you see the character's face, you should probably draw their face, right?
Yeah.
Maybe because I've sort of like the first one I did, it was kind of like they were like kind of 3/4 angles. Yeah. And I wasn't happy with that. So then I went to a profile, which is cool because it looks kind of contemplative. But I still feel like I could probably achieve that better. Say if I did like, you know, like a front on portrait sort of style. And plus I can establish her look directly from like the first page.
Well, that other profile was pretty close up too, wasn't it? Like it was pretty much just her face.
This one?
Well, stream's a little delayed, so it might take a while. Yeah,
um,
yeah, it's just her face.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, this is the thing. Like, I feel like I can
Well,
give her.
you could probably still do a profile, but just like back it out a bit more, like maybe get a bit of a chest or something.
I don't know.
I don't know, I'm just throwing shit out there.
Now, okay, so we've established in our conversations that Nissa has pink eyes. Not,
Yes.
she doesn't have pink eye. She's got pink eyes.
Right.
Is there any element in the story that establishes that, or is that just what part of the world? Like,
It was more of a stylistic choice.
yeah, okay, so there's not
Just,
anything
just like
specific.
contrast, because like she has black hair. Very sort of. What skin color would you say it was? Because like we pretty much settled on a very Icelandic.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. We discussed this at great length, and we were talking about based on another podcast I was listening to where Matt Kennedy was interviewing Matt Kennedy. No man, now I'm blanking. It's a pop sequentialism podcast anyway. He was interviewing a model who's a friend of his who does. She's Eurasian, and he asked her like, "What sort of modeling work do you get?" And she was like, "Oh, I usually get like futurism kind of, things because she's got that Eurasian look that I guess everybody assumes that everybody's going to look like in the future, And that's the thing. Like when you start thinking about something that's set in a post-apocalyptic future, you got a female character. The temptation is there to just instantly gravitate towards Eurasian in appearance, and I wanted to avoid that, just because one, I feel like we are in an age now where people are kind of sensitive about things like that. This was only part of the reasoning, but people have a lot more focus on appropriation of culture and things like that, and I feel like drawing that character as I don't have any like dominion over that character's history. You know what I mean? I don't. It's not my place. I feel to come up with a character like that. Having said that, like, I don't know anything about Iceland either. But I was scrolling through and I was trying to find an alternative look for the character. And I was just looking at photos of models and stuff like that to try and come up with some imagery and some ideas. And I found this Icelandic model who, I mean, I don't even know who it is name-wise or anything like that. I just found a picture. And it just struck a chord because she has, the heavy eyelids and stuff like that. But that's part of her ethnicity, I guess. What I'm basically getting at is she has the appearance of that melange of ethnicities you don't know. It's very non-specific. You can see that there's some sort of character there, but it's non-specific. At least from a popular sort of culture sort of standpoint, you don't see that a lot, and I really dug that because we want a futuristic sort of vibe where it looks like it's we're in the future where there's not really a thing like race anymore because everybody's sort of just become one giant race. And so you still need to have some of that historical attributes, I guess.
Yeah, like remnants.
Yeah, but without it being a specific thing, and it's real easy to draw somebody Asian and go, okay, well, they're from somewhere in Asia,
Yeah.
Or they have some sort of an Asian background. But I really wanted to avoid that if possible. I didn't want it to be specific. I didn't want an African American character. I didn't want an Asian character or any other sort of ethnicity. I just wanted something specific to this story. But where you can look at it and go, well, they don't look white and they don't look Asian, they don't look anything in particular. It's just a generalization of race, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm drawing this all wrong.
Yeah, the reason for the pink eyes was like because of the contrast, the juxtaposition. Like it's so bright in her eyes that it just contrasts well with the black clothes and the skin color. I don't know. I feel like it's like something like if you drew like a splash page with like all this shit going on, blah blah blah, you'd probably be able to pick her out straight away, sort of thing.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. Max! He's literally lying in his bed, upside down, feet in the air, and he's just decided that something's worth barking at. Like it's casual barking. Oh, hang on. Here's another question. Wow. Okay. Yeah. See. Again, this is something you got to think about. I'm drawing the character now. She's looking into the sun, and I just automatically start shading, without thinking about, like I've got to turn her around and go, okay, from her perspective, the sun's straight in her face, so there's going to be very little shadow.
Yeah.
And all that. So, and I've also got to remember that the hair is now going to be going the other direction from her perspective. So I would have very easily drawn it going this way when it should be going that way. Cool. Okay, that's not looking too bad.
What are you going to be using to color? I know it's a ways down the track, but
It's going to be... I'm going to try a couple of things. I'm definitely going to do it on my tablet, pending that working out. Like there's a certain... I've got a Surface 3 that I like the interaction of the pen on the actual screen more so than I like tablets in general. Like graphics tablets for traditional sort of art.
is there latency at all?
There's no. I mean, there is, but it's very imperceptible. Like you can sometimes if you're drawing like a scribble, you can see the line start like catching up, but it's just a nanosecond behind. It's actually really good, and I like that a lot. But if I reach limitations on that, then I'm gonna have to figure out something else. But I'm thinking about like a style that's more. Like less ink and block color and more, wishy-washy background colors, like watercolor almost. Because that's how I would traditionally do it. Like what I was planning on originally doing was, just watercoloring directly on the pencils.
Yeah.
Which I'd feel way more comfortable with, but I feel like the workflow would be too slow, and also I can't do it anywhere. I have to consciously set up a space and work on it for a couple of hours and then think, and I can't always guarantee that sort of time. So I guess this way I can.
I suppose if you fuck it up, you have to skip that.
Yeah, you can just delete the layer behind the main layer. Anyway, I'm gonna have to call it at that. I'll keep working on it, and we'll might chat again on the next stream.
No worries.
Okay, it was good having you on, man.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Catch you later.
Yeah.
Thank you. Check us out on CoreyWireArt.com.